Hello, welcome back. I come to you with a fun update. Thanks for all the comments. Congrats to those people that have gotten interviews and face-to-faces. I am super happy that y'all are getting in there and boosting my seniority. So my exciting update is that I'm finally a line holder. I'll go into all the details about being a line holder versus being on reserve and what that means for a junior-ish flight attendant. That's been really fun this month. We're like mid-month now, mid-March. So it took me about 4 years to get a line, to hold a line here in Newark. Even like new hires are holding lines in certain bases, which is kind of crazy. So if you're a new line holder like I am, congrats, because it can be exhausting being on reserve. You just have to know how to work the system and pray for the best sometimes. You have any tips for being a line holder? Let me know. Very excited for my first, well, maybe not my first, but one of the sponsors I've been so happy and excited that reached out because it's one of my favorite things ever. I'm talking about a Liquid I.V. I spend so much money on Gatorade and like electrolyte things just because being in the air kind of dehydrates you. This is my tried and true electrolyte recovery hydration drink, and I used to suffer from a lot of leg cramps from being dehydrated and lack of potassium. These are my go-to if you're hungover and you need some help. If you went hard at the gym, especially when I'm flying, I try not to drink too much because then I can never stop going to the bathroom. So you just pour it in your water bottle. I started drinking these when I was Denver based, and I would see them in the airport in the fridge section next to the water, so I would just pick them up. They sent me passion fruit, strawberry, and my personal favorites, the lemon lime. This tastes just like the yellow Gatorade, which is my favorite. It has 2 to 3 times more hydration than water alone. 3 times the electrolytes, 5 essential vitamins, B3, B5, B6, B12, and vitamin C. And it tastes great, which I can attest to. They were generous enough to give me a discount code, which will be down below, or the link. So you can either use the link or the code. You can get some money off your Liquid I.V. If you're on the fence about trying Liquid I.V. and you see them anywhere in the airport or whatnot, I would definitely give them a shot. This is all new to me. I kind of know what's going on a little bit. I knew I would probably hold a line by this summer, but a little earlier than anticipated. I thought I'd make a little informational video on reserve versus having a line, major differences, thoughts, prayers, you know. This is kind of a good video for if you're curious about being a flight attendant and kind of what the schedules are like. I can't go into extreme detail because that would just be torturous. So the 2 types of flight attendant schedules are having a line, being a line holder, or having a reserve line and being on reserve. Since the day I hit the line right out of training up until the day before March 1st, I was a reserve flight attendant. I've been based in Denver and Newark. Reserve flight attendants are usually used in case someone like a line holder calls out sick, if they're misconnecting somewhere and they're repairing, or if they're running late. Sometimes we pre-board for them if there's a chance they might make it, and if not, then we work the flight for them. Reserve life varies company to company. At my company, it's 24-hour reserve, so that means when you're on reserve, say tomorrow, you're on reserve the whole 24 hours. And you can kind of see where you are on the reserve list. So that helps you kind of gauge. You just have to learn the ropes. Some companies, I know they do 12-hour reserve shifts, so A and B rotations. At my company, you can be on reserve from 1 to 6 days, but you need 1 day and 7 days off to be legal for your next trip. Being on reserve means that you are at the company's mercy. You do know what days you have off a couple weeks before your next month. When you're on reserve, you're basically bidding for your days off, not so much for trips. While on reserve, you can pick up trips on your days off. On your days on, you are assigned trips by the company. At times it could be harder to pick up trips on reserve. It kind of just depends on your reserve line. We have to have 1 day and 7 days off, 12 hours rest between trips. You have to work at least 3 days in a row, have a block of 3 days of reserve in a row. So there's like stipulations and stuff. The company decides they need you today and they're running low on reserves and you're on reserve today. They can give you like a 3-hour call out is the shortest amount of time. 3 hours before the check-in at the gates. If they call you even shorter than 3 hours, that's called a short call, and you're supposed to say you're going to try your best to make it there, but you still have to make it there within the 3-hour window. Even if you miss that flight, like sometimes they'll reassign you or they'll put you on standby since you're already there, and that's if you're on ready reserve. Ready reserve means you're sitting at home on reserve. Standby, airport alert, I know it's called at some companies and it used to be called at mine. That means you're sitting at the airport in the crew lounge or somewhere in the terminal just waiting to see. Now, what is a line? It means you have a set schedule. For instance, on reserve, you have a reserve line so you know what days you're off and what days you're on call. When you have a line and you are a line holder, about a couple weeks before the next month, you know exactly where you're going, when your check-in is, how many days you'll be away from home. Things are always changing in your schedule. Sometimes you might misconnect somewhere and they'll reassign you, but you're pay protected because you are a line holder. Unlike on reserve, if they reassign you, you're basically just on like reserve. You're getting paid the hours you're flying. Again, you know exactly where you're going, when you're going, for how long you're going. It helps you plan your life better. Like, you know exactly what to pack in your bag. You don't have to have 4 seasons in your bag, or you're packing for 1 or 2 days instead of, if you're on reserve for 4 days and you're sitting airport standby, you could get a 1-day trip, 2-day trip, 3-day trip. So you pack for the most days you're available for. It also lets you plan a little more for layovers. If you have certain layovers you're excited to see things at, you can plan in advance and, you know, have more of an idea what you want to do, what you want to see. If your friend lives there, you want to see them. If your crew is cool, you want to go out with them. Picking up trips becomes easier. You can trade trips with other flight attendants within, like, there's some stipulations as well. It's easier to pick up trips if you have a 24-hour layover internationally. That can count as your 1 in 7, since you know exactly you'll be back from your days off and if you'll be legal for it. Unlike if you're on reserve, you have to wait until you're back in base and you call and get released, or they release you to your days off and then you can pick up. Unlike reserve lines where you're bidding for your days off, lines you're bidding for the layovers and basically the layovers you want and the trips you want. Also, if you're a line holder, you can pick trips up out of base. For instance, in Denver, there's a lot of Hawaii flying, so if I wanted to pick up a Hawaii, I could pick it up from Denver. You can only pick up a certain amount of hours before the trip departs. I think it's like 14 hours, something around there. Advertising your trips for the month is a lot easier. You just put them all up on the board. Say if you want to clear your line, hopefully people will pick it up and then the trip is dropped from your line and on their line. Unlike if you're in reserve, they kind of let you know 7:30 the day before you're ready reserve, airport standby, or you have a reserve trip. Well, then you would have to wait until that same day to drop it or try to drop it. And if it has an early check-in and no one picks it up, then you're gonna have to go work it. And you can trade, advertise, try to drop your trips throughout the month. A little bit about the differences in pay. On reserve, you have a guarantee. Our reserve guarantee is about 78 hours. That means you get paid the 78 hours minimum, whether you fly less than 78 or 78. If you fly more than 78, you get the 78 plus whatever you pick up or fly on top of that. And it doesn't matter whether you're a reserve flight attendant or a line holder, you do get paid whatever your seniority gets paid. So I'm 4 years in, I would get paid 4-year pay for reserve trips or my line holder trips. I was a new hire reserve flight attendant in Denver. Honestly, it wasn't bad. I did not get used too much. You do have the opportunity to place yourself on minimum fly, maximum fly, or no preference. That usually helps you on the reserve list. But I will say the more hours you have, the less you'll get used. The less hours you have, you're boosted all the way to the top, basically. If you're a line holder, you do work all of those amount of hours your line is worth, so 70 to 85. You will be, in theory, working all of those hours, and then anything you pick up as well. You are working more flight hours, but there are also a lot of reserves that work a lot of flight hours. They pick up a lot. I just didn't. Unlike reserve flight attendants, if you are reassigned a trip after misconnecting, canceling as a line holder, is only a certain amount of times you can be reassigned, unless I believe there's like irregular operations going on and everything's going down the drain. It's a little bit different, but in theory you should only be getting reassigned X amount of times, unlike on reserve where they can keep changing your pairing, changing your pairing because you are at the mercy of the company. Reserve does look different based on your seniority at every base. You can bid for your reserve lines. It doesn't necessarily mean you're gonna get your first, second, third, fourth, 10th choice, depending on your seniority. If you're super junior, I did go through the furlough, so that affected a lot of things in March of 2019. Things are slowly coming back to normal, fortunately enough. Summer flying is right around the corner. Summer flying last year, we were not prepared for. So hopefully this year is a little bit different. The type of line you hold, international, domestic, a mix of both, is how you bid and is all based on your seniority. Bases in terms of being more junior or senior truly depends on the time of year, on the day. Like I said, Newark has kind of always been on the more junior side because there's always transfers in and out. There's a lot of new hires. There's a lot of flying here in Newark. Things are always changing. That is why I don't line chase. Being a line chaser means you will transfer to a base where you know you hold a line, but things can always change. So say you hold a line this month in Dulles, and next month you lose your line. You just move to Dulles and you're stuck there for 3 months without being able to transfer, or I think it's 6 months. I'm not too sure. I'm also living at home and lucky enough to have been able to transfer out here. As of right now, I'm very happy where I'm at. I don't want to change anything about my situation. It was not always like this for me. If you have been with me watching my videos from the beginning, I don't know if I expressed it then, but I was so homesick. I'm very close with my family. I love my dogs. They are the light of my life, and being so far away from everything I knew in a new city, I was lucky enough to have met and lived with amazing roommates there, but it's just not the same. Like, I am a Jersey girl through and through, or at least an East Coast girl, so being based out west I did enjoy it. I think Denver is a great, amazing base for new hires. They have a wealth of information there, and they are so nice. We all start at the bottom of the barrel. Sometimes it's hard to accept. I remember laying in my bed in Denver thinking, when will I ever hold a line? It's gonna be years. When will I get my transfer? And then as soon as I came back after the furlough, like 2 months in, I got my transfer out here. That I waited a long time for a line. New hires are coming in with lines, which is great, like that they don't have to go through reserve. I don't know, our company is really hiring a lot at the moment, so hopefully everyone gets to keep their lines. I was lucky enough to also have vacation, like 12 days vacation this month, as well as being a line holder. So a lot of trips were during my vacation and they ended up falling off, but I still get paid for them. But I picked up a bunch of international trips during my vacation because I'm doing this thing called vacation fly-through, where you get paid your vacation days, but you also are doing the company a favor by picking up the trips, so they pay you for them. It is a lot of information. I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you so much for watching. Like, subscribe, share, and I'll see you guys soon.